So what's up everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Zeppelin, and today I wanted to make a review talking about something different for a change. Instead of reviewing a pro controller or a gaming controller, I am going to be talking about the Poco F2 Pro smartphone. Now, I originally wasn't going to make a video on smartphones because smartphones aren't exactly my area of expertise. They're something I got into quite late, and it was only in researching to try and get myself a better phone that I started to learn certain things about phones from other reviewers, such as chipsets and the different types of screens and all of that stuff. So when it comes to reviewing phones, I am relatively new to all of this, and I'm not the go-to expert on this, but I also feel like that might benefit you as a viewer, as I will be giving you my personal experience about a phone when I don't have so much experience with phones. So you're not going to be getting a review from some techie guy who knows the ins and outs of every expensive, say, $1,000 phone. You're going to be getting the personal experience of someone who isn't an expert in phones, and if you are in the same boat, then you might find this review rather helpful. But as I said, I originally was not going to make a video on the Poco F2 Pro. It was only that I had a number of people ask me when making YouTube content and Twitch content, what camera do I use? Because the cameras you're seeing here looks great. Well, I never actually bought a camera, and I never invested in a webcam. The camera that you are seeing right now is the camera of the Poco F2 with a webcam app installed and hooked up directly into my PC. And it was from people hearing about this camera that they thought I might have had an expensive £1,000 phone, a $1,000 phone, and that's why the camera was so good. But of course these people are only used to hearing about their Apple and Samsung phones, and this is where I would tell them about companies like Xiaomi and the budget options that are out there that offer you almost as much as the very high-end expensive phones for sometimes under half the price. So rather than telling everyone I know individually about all the bells and whistles of the phone that I have and why it is so good, I figured I would just make a video to show the people who have been interested and asked me before about the phone, and also anyone who might be looking up reviews in 2021, trying to see if this phone is still a viable option. So as I said, I'm not the most techie guy when it comes to phones, and I know a lot of people watching might not be too interested in all the little tech specs of the phone. However, I feel like I would be missing out, and you would be missing out, if I did not at least run through some of the specs within the phone to give you an idea of the level and quality of phone that we're dealing with. So first off, the screen of the phone is a Super AMOLED screen at about 6.67 inches. It is also made out of Gorilla Glass 5, which is pretty standard for mid to higher range phones at this level. The frame of the phone, of course, also has a glass front and a glass back with an aluminium frame. There's no plastic back on this, so automatically from that you can tell that you're dealing with something that sits in more of a mid-range phone as opposed to a lower tier. Of course, when it comes to sizing options for storage, there is 128GB and 256GB. There's those two different types of storage you can get in the phones. I, of course, went for the 128GB phone as it was cheaper. This phone also runs the not latest chipset, but one of the newest chipsets out there, and one of the best chipsets in the market, the Snapdragon 865, which is being used by a lot of the top end phones. Your $1,000 Samsung S20 phones ran off the Snapdragon 865. When it comes to the battery, you've got a 4,700 milliamp hour battery and fast charging of 30 watts, which is pretty fast. You will charge from 0 to 100 probably within an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours. And of course, when it comes to the cameras, what you are seeing now is pretty good quality, so you'll know that the camera on this phone is pretty good. It is a 64 megapixel camera. That is the main camera anyway. There's other cameras such as the telephoto macro camera, the ultra wide, and the depth camera. Now, while they are not as impressive as the main camera, should I say, they are still pretty good, and they do a damn good job again for the price range that this phone would sit in. And lastly, in terms of tech specs with phones. This phone has a 20 megapixel front camera, however it is not situated on the front of the screen. The front of the screen has no notch, nothing. It has a pop-up camera, so anytime you open the selfie camera it pops up from the top of the phone, leaving you with a completely clear screen space with no notches or anything in the way whatsoever. Now, to talk about my personal experiences with this phone, given that I am not a tech expert and I haven't had the highest end phones, all I can say is that this is the best phone that I have ever had. Now, I have been thinking of upgrading to the Xiaomi Mi 10, however, there is not much of a jump in terms of quality, but there is quite a high jump in price, especially at the price that I got this phone for. I was very lucky to get this phone on sale brand new for £250, which I know it does not go for that price anymore, but that could again be due to COVID reasons. This phone currently sits at the moment at around £350 to £400, which is still dirt cheap for all the things that you are getting in this phone in comparison to your higher ends. This phone, if it was made by any other company, would at least be sitting in the £700-800 market, which is double the price nearly of what it goes for now, and way more than double as to what I paid for it. The Snapdragon 865 chip makes everything in this phone a breeze. Everything loads quick without problems, and if you're using this phone for gaming, you will find pretty much no lag, and you can run everything on its top settings. Now, while it may get a little hot, this is nothing to really worry about, as the phone is capable of handling these higher end games if you so choose to play them. I feel like it's also important as well when talking about this phone to mention the software it runs on. It runs on MIUI, as it is made by Xiaomi. Poco is or used to be, at least when this phone came out, a company owned by Xiaomi, and Xiaomi phones all use the MIUI interface, so everything on your phone pretty much runs off this software, and people have complained about this software in the past, but MIUI 12 definitely does feel more premium. As I had a brief experience with Samsung S9, I do understand why some people felt that this phone and this software would be lacking in comparison to the way higher end of the spectrum softwares. There are things that are annoying on this phone, such as integrated ads into the software and other apps that are on the phone, such as your file managers, but this can be forgiven, as this may be one of the key factors that drove down the price of these phones, and in terms of them impacting your use, it is almost less than minimal, so there's nothing to worry about, although I understand if it would be a pet peeve to some people who choose to get this phone. Of course, in terms of my streaming and my personal experience of using the phone for what I need it for, it has been working perfectly with the app that I have installed, and the camera works better than any 100, 150, even £200 webcam. I highly recommend, if any of you are sitting at home with even a decent phone and you don't use it during your streams, do get an app to use it as a webcam, because I guarantee you it will run better than any webcam you've ever used and really give a high boost quality to your streams. When it comes to recommending this phone, as it is the best phone I have ever used, of course I would recommend it. However, if you are sitting with £1,000 to easily spend on a phone, but are just looking to save where you can, I would recommend going a little higher to save in the long run. The Xiaomi Mi 10 seems like an excellent choice, and you can pick that up for around £400, £450. And then the Xiaomi Mi 11 just came out, which if you can source that from China, it is again only £100 more expensive, and it is arguably going to be the best phone on the market in 2021, with the Snapdragon 888 chipset and a whole bunch of other bells and whistles that make it a top tier phone at half the price of what the new Samsung or iPhones will be released at. If there is anything that I want the viewers to take away from this video, is that I highly recommend doing your research when it comes to phones. I know so many people who pick up old iPhones for just the iPhone name, and while certain apps may be optimized better for the iOS software on iPhones, there is no comparison in quality, in my opinion, between an iPhone 6 or 7 and a Xiaomi even Mi A3 or a Xiaomi Mi 9, which the Xiaomis are probably still cheaper than what you get those iPhones at, but are triple or quadruple the quality in nearly every aspect of their use. Do not shop on name, do not shop on brand, shop on value. And anyone who has done the research into the phone markets will tell you that there is pretty much nowhere you can go for better value than Xiaomi. Now, in terms of sourcing a Xiaomi or a Poco phone, you may have to order from websites that will send you your phone, but they are a little smaller and they are not as trustworthy, and it could take 2 weeks for your phone to arrive rather than 2 days, all depending on where you get it from. But trust me and trust reviewers when they say that Xiaomi phones are fantastic phones for the price, and sometimes the best phones overall. And as I said earlier, of course I recommend this phone, and if you are on a budget, you are sitting with £400-500, dollars, whatever, and you want to get a good phone, the Poco F2 is a great option. And there are other phones like the Xiaomi Mi 10 that would probably now all fall within the same price range that are going to give you what a $1,000 phone would have even last year. You're going to be able to get everything you want out of these phones, I guarantee it. So that is the end of this video, and thank you very much for watching. What do you think of the Poco F2, or are you thinking of buying it? Let me know down in the comments below if you agree or disagree with me, or if you have any questions on this phone. I will be happy to answer them, or any other Xiaomi phones for that matter. While I have not gotten my hands on them, I feel like I would be able to tell you certain things about them if you are curious about getting the phone, and I may be able to sway your opinion towards getting them or not getting them, depending on what you are looking for. But thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.